probably don't know me as Hagen. They know me as Bonettes.
Oh.
Good job.
As you can see, today we're going to be interviewing my wife Megan and about her awesome, unique experience in Romania. Let's get started with this interview by hearing what city she lived in.
Wow, I lived in a lot of cities. I first started in Bacău, then I went to Craiova, then Bucharest, Timișoara, Pitești, Ploiești, and Sibiu. So I lived in 7 cities in Romania.
And what are some interesting mannerisms or traditions that varied from America's?
The first thing that comes to my mind is with flowers. Whenever you saw somebody walking down the street with flowers, if they were holding them where the petals are pointing down, that indicated that they were giving them as a gift. And then if you saw somebody holding them upright, that means they had received them as a gift. So that was always fun to see who is giving and receiving flowers.
What is the food like in Romania, and what are your thoughts on the food?
At first, I was not a fan. The first meal that I had was like the traditional sarmale and mamaliga. I thought it was terrible, but now that's my favorite food. My husband and I, we make it all the time for holidays and whenever we're craving some. But yeah, the texture of the mamaliga, it's like the cornmeal texture. That was really hard for me to get used to. But when you get some good smetana or sour cream on it, it made all the difference. And then with the sarmale, I think I like the grape leaves better. They do a few different ones. They do grape leaves and cabbage leaves. Grape leaves were my favorite. I feel like they were just a little bit softer and more flavorful. But yeah, that was my favorite food in Romania. There's also shawarmas. Those were yummy. Okay, then my favorite dessert is the kovrig. It's the chocolate-filled pretzel, or there's fruit and jams you can get in it. I loved the chocolate. So yeah, if I could go back right now and eat food, it would be mamaliga, sarmale, and a kovrig for dessert. Chocolate kovrig.
Along with that question, what's the craziest thing you ever ate in Romania?
It was a fish. It was a chunk of fish. It was in a jar, and I don't think I even chewed on the thing. I just put it in my mouth and swallowed it whole. But it was the grossest thing ever. It was like, I don't even think it was pickled. I don't know what it was, but it was a whole bunch of fish, and they all had their eyes on them and chopped in pieces. Disgusting.
What are some major differences between Americans and Romanians?
I think the things that I noticed initially were, at least for me, I'm a smiley, I say hi to everybody type of person, and that was not the norm in Romania. I feel like you'd sit on a train and everyone would just like stare down, no smiles, and I'm sitting here like, hi. So that felt very different. They're very honest and bland with their words. Like they will comment on appearance like, oh, you've gained some weight. You're a little bit fatter now, or you're too skinny, eat some food. Where I don't think we do that as Americans as much. We're a lot softer and beat around the bush with our words. So good and bad.
Did you ever have culture shock in Romania, and what did it feel like?
Yeah, the culture shock that I had was more how the cities are built. I'm from southern Utah, and our streets are giant. The pioneers settled my town, and the streets literally, you could fit like 4 semi-trucks down one side of the road, it feels like. Where in Romania, everything was really tall. You couldn't see any of the mountains, at least in the main cities. And their roads were really little. They had one-way streets, and I had never been out of the country to see anything like that. So that was my biggest shock. Culture shock was the streets and the layouts of the city. Everything was like circular, where again in my hometown, everything is on a grid system and square. So it just was harder for me to get directionally acclimated.
How were the living situations in comparison to Romania and America? And as a female, did you feel safe, or were you ever scared in Romania?
The living situations, I feel like, again, it depends on each person, but where I was at in each of my cities, it felt very similar. I'd say the biggest difference was people lived in flats or apartments and didn't have very many single family homes. So that was very different than what I was used to. Another thing, in a lot of my apartments, the wiring was on the outside of the walls. And so you could see all the electrical like going from each outlet. That was very strange. And like their dishwashers, you'd put a tube from your dishwasher up, or was it your clothes washer? Might have been your clothes washer. We'll say dishwasher right now. From your dishwasher, you'd put a tube up into your kitchen sink, and that's how everything would drain. So that was very different. But I mean, I had everything I needed. I didn't feel like I was missing anything. And then as far as safety, I felt very safe. I mean, the people were kind. There was well-lit areas. I mean, I was there as a missionary for my church, and so I wasn't going out late at night by myself or anything. I always had my companion and friend with me. So I was never by myself and put into situations where I felt nervous or scared. And then even when my husband and I went back, do they know that we're husband and wife? Okay. When Hagen and I went back, I didn't feel nervous. I mean, there's times where he dropped me off to go get a Kovrik, my favorite, and I felt completely fine. I was comfortable with the language, and I think even without knowing Romanian, you would be able to feel comfortable.
So earlier you talked about the cities you lived in. Now tell me some of your favorite things about those favorite cities that you lived in.
My favorite city is Sibiu. That's where I met my husband. And I just love the look of the city. I love Centru in Sibiu. Has all the cool buildings with the eyes looking at you. It's German influenced. I loved the coloring, everything about Sibiu. I love it. Another city that I really loved was Bacău. Probably because it was my first city that I was to, so it was like my first taste of Romania. But they had this little painting on a lot of the walls. It was like a street art of this guy like saying hi, or like waving hello. So that was kind of fun to find all of the guys with their hands up. I don't know what they're called, but that was fun. And then we drove through the country when Bănărescu and I went back. And I just loved all of the cities. Like, it's so hard to pick one. I loved that it just felt like life slowed down a little bit when you drove through the cities, because you just would pull into a small town, you'd see people on their cute benches outside of their fences, and then you'd be out of the city, and then you'd pull into the next one. And it was just fun to see the changes as we drove across the country.
And lastly, the thing we all came here to find out, what do you love about Romania or Romanians?
I loved how welcoming they were. At the beginning, I said that they weren't very smiley, but they are so loving and so kind, and I felt nothing but love from them. I appreciated everybody encouraging me to learn the language, and even though if it was cute, broken Romanglish, they really loved me, and I loved them. I want to say thank you to all the Romanians, and I love your culture. I love all of you. Thank you for loving me.
Thank you so much, Megan. You really are the best. I can't wait to get back to Romania with you. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. Peace.